Welcome back, everyone. We're diving into Lesson 49 today from A Course in Miracles.
God's voice speaks to me all through the day, this one is.
It really builds on all the work we've been doing on forgiveness.
Yeah. And recognizing the world, the physical world, as an illusion.
To set the stage, let's hear the lesson itself.
Always good to refresh our memories, the exact wording,
Absolutely. Ready when you are?
Okay, from A Course in Miracles then, Lesson 49. God's voice speaks to me all through the day. It starts with, it is quite possible to listen to God's voice all day without interrupting your regular activities in any way.
That's a big one right there, right off the bat. And then it goes on to say, the part of your mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God, whether you are aware of it or not. It is the other part of your mind that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. It is this part that is constantly distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain.
And then, the part that is listening to the voice of truth is calm, always at rest, and wholly certain. It is really the only part there is. The other part is a wild illusion, frantic and distraught, but without reality of any kind. Try today not to listen to it. Try to identify with the part of your mind where stillness reigns forever. Try to hear God's voice call to you lovingly, reminding you that your Creator has not forgotten His Son.
Okay.
We will need 4 5-minute practice periods today and more if possible. We will try actually to hear the voice within you, reminding you of God and of yourself. We will approach this happiest and holiest of all thoughts with confidence, knowing that in doing so, we are joining our will with the will of God. He wants you to hear His voice. He gave it to you to be heard. Gives me chills every time. Listen in deep silence. Be very still and open your mind. Go past all of the raucous shrieks and sick imaginings that cover your real thoughts and obscure your eternal link with God. Sink deep into the peace that waits for you, beyond the frantic, riotous thoughts and sounds and sights of an insane world. You do not live there. You are trying to reach your real home. You are trying to reach the place where you are truly welcome. You are trying to reach God. And lastly, do not forget to repeat today's idea very frequently. Do so with your eyes open when necessary and closed when possible. And be sure that you sit quietly and repeat it slowly whenever you can, closing your eyes on the world and realizing that you are inviting God's voice to speak to you.
Beautiful. It never gets old, even after all this time with the Course.
I know, right?
So much depth.
Yeah.
It really emphasizes the idea that connecting with what the Course calls God's voice isn't about adding to our already busy schedules.
Right. It's not another thing to check off the to-do list.
It's about shifting how we see our entire day.
It's almost a paradox. To hear this, quiet voice inside, we need to get stiller, more present, right in the middle of all the busyness of life. It's not about separating ourselves from life.
That's where I get tripped up. If I have a crazy day at work, like wall-to-wall meetings, deadlines, it's so easy to be like, okay, spiritual stuff.
Yeah.
Later, when it's calmer.
Oh, that's the trap, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
This lesson's reminding us that connection to truth, that God's voice, it's always there.
Always talking to us.
Yeah. Not just waiting for us to have less on our plates, it's woven right into our experience.
It's like not finding more time, but using the time we have differently.
Yeah.
Like, I've started using my commute for those breathing exercises.
Yeah.
Instead of, stressing about the traffic.
Yeah.
The ones we talked about a few lessons ago.
You're already doing it then, even unconsciously. The lesson's just making us aware of it.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
It makes sense when you think about it. If that part of us, the part connected to truth, if it's always there, then it's accessible even when we're slammed at work, right?
Yeah. But there's this other part that always throws me about the two different parts of the mind.
You mean where it talks about one that's constantly distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain, and the other being calm, always at rest, and wholly certain?
Yes. What are those two parts exactly? Like the angel and devil on our shoulders arguing.
That's a fun image. But A Course in Miracles, it's a little deeper than that, I think.
Okay.
Remember we talked about the ego mind versus the right mind?
Right.
This lesson, it builds on that. It's not good versus evil, but more like which part of our mind are we choosing to identify with right now in this moment?
So the distracted one, that's the ego mind, the one that gets all caught up in worries and fears and wanting to control things.
Right. The ego mind, it's loud, demanding, obsessed with the physical world and its illusions. It's the one telling us we're separate, vulnerable, always needing to fix things.
And the calm, certain part, that's the right mind. The part connected to truth, to what the Course calls God.
Exactly. The right mind, it's peaceful, knowing. Connected to our true self, our wholeness. That's where intuition comes from, and love, forgiveness. The lesson's saying this part is always available, always talking to us.
If we can just learn to tune in.
Yeah.
This reminds me of something that happened at work. I was in this meeting, and it got really tense, people disagreeing about a project, and I felt myself getting caught up in it.
Oh, I know that feeling.
My heart was racing, and I was about to jump in and argue.
Classic ego mind move. We've all been there. What happened?
Well, instead of reacting, I remember that breathing exercise from A Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
And I just took a few deep breaths, tried to center myself, and it was like a switch flipped. This calm just washed over me, and suddenly it all seemed not so urgent anymore.
That's it right there.
Yeah.
That shift from the ego mind to the right mind, even in a stressful situation.
Wow. It's interesting, by calming down myself, I think I actually changed the energy of the whole meeting a little bit.
You probably did, yeah. Even subtly.
People started listening to each other more, and we actually ended up finding a solution that worked for everyone. Do you think it's possible? Like, me being still inside, somehow it affected everyone else.
A Course in Miracles teaches us our thoughts and feelings. They have a ripple effect. When we connect with the peace and love of the right mind, it radiates out, influences those around us.
So powerful. So by doing these lessons, not only do we feel more peace and joy, but we're actually contributing to a more loving world.
That's the idea, yeah. Our individual spiritual journeys, they can create change on a larger scale. But we have to start with ourselves, right? That's where Lesson 49 comes in.
Reminding us to make that effort to listen to that inner voice.
Yeah, to connect with something bigger than ourselves.
And it's available all the time, not just when we're meditating or something.
Right, in the middle of a workday, an argument, traffic.
It's everywhere. Wow, we've covered so much already. But there's still more to dig into.
There is. Let's take a breath and we'll come back to this in part 2. You know, when we were talking about those two parts of the mind?
Yeah.
The distracted one and the one that's connected to truth. It reminded me of this time I had to make a big decision at work.
Ooh, I know that feeling. What was it
Yeah.
about?
It was whether to stay in my job, which was, comfy and familiar, or go for this new position.
Oh, wow.
That would really push me, in ways I couldn't even imagine.
That's a tough one.
It was.
That pull between the safe choice and
Yeah.
stepping outside your comfort zone.
It was agonizing. My ego mind was giving me every reason to stay put. Fear of failing, fear of the unknown, fear of what people would think.
Oof, I feel that.
It was
Right.
like those raucous shrieks the lesson talks about.
But the lesson says to go past those, right? To listen for that quieter voice.
Right.
What happened when you tried to do that?
It was hard at first, All I could hear was the doubts and fears.
Yeah.
But then I remembered what the lesson says about repeating the idea.
Mhm.
God's voice speaks to me all through the day. So I started saying it to myself over and over.
You used it like an anchor
Yeah,
to help you focus.
And it worked. Slowly, things started to change. It was like all that mental noise faded away, and I felt this deep peace come over me.
The peace the lesson talks about.
Yes.
Beyond the chaos.
And in that stillness, I heard it, almost an intuition. Take the risk. You're ready.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. That must have taken so much courage.
It did.
To trust that when your ego mind was telling you all those other things.
It did. But the more I focused on that piece, the more sure I felt.
You knew it was the right decision.
I did. And you know what? The minute I decided to apply for the new job, this wave of relief just washed over me.
You aligned with your purpose.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
And the lesson talks about this, right? It's about aligning our will with the will of God.
Surrendering.
Surrendering to what's best for us, even if we can't see the whole picture.
Surrender's tricky, though, isn't it?
It is.
People think it means giving up.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're talking about a choice.
It is a choice.
To align with something bigger.
Exactly. Recognizing we're not in this alone. There's a wisdom and a love beyond our own understanding. And if we can tap into that, well, we can handle anything life throws at us.
With more grace.
Yeah.
It's like we're swapping our limited view for a bigger one.
Right.
A divine perspective.
And that changes everything. When we're in the ego mind, everything feels like a fight, a struggle. But when we connect with God's voice, it's like we tap into this source of strength
Guidance.
that helps us move through life with more peace.
Joy.
Yeah,
The lesson also mentions forgiveness
it does.
as a way to hear God's voice better.
Yeah.
Why that's so important.
When we hold on to anger, resentment, guilt. It's like carrying a weight around.
Yeah.
It blocks us from that lightness of the right mind.
That clarity.
It's those sick imaginings,
Yeah.
right? Clouding our perception.
So forgiveness is like clearing out the clutter
Exactly.
to make space for God's voice.
Great way to put it. By releasing the negativity, we make ourselves more receptive to that intuition, that guidance.
This reminds me of something I saw online the other day. This comment thread that was just full of anger and judgment.
Oh, I see those all the time.
It was tempting to get sucked in.
Yeah, to add fuel to the fire.
I could feel myself getting tense.
Your ego mind getting triggered.
Yeah. And in the past, I probably would have reacted.
Yeah.
But this time, I remember the lesson about forgiveness.
Good for you.
I just stepped away from the computer, took some breaths, and reminded myself everyone's on their own journey. We all mess up.
We do.
And holding on to that judgment just hurts me.
It does. That's a powerful act of self-forgiveness.
It was a small thing, but it felt big.
It was a choice to choose love over fear.
Compassion over judgment.
And you felt lighter afterward.
I did. Like I'd let go of a burden I didn't even know I was carrying.
That's the power of forgiveness.
Freeing ourselves from the past.
Yeah, so we can move through the present with more clarity and peace.
It makes me wonder, are there certain techniques that can help us with this?
Techniques.
To cultivate that stillness and connect with God's voice.
Well, the lesson suggests those 5-minute practice periods
Oh,
where
right.
we just listen in silence.
But it's not just about those formal times, right?
No, it's about bringing that awareness into everything we do.
Finding those little moments of stillness throughout the day,
Even if it's just for a few seconds.
like pausing before I answer the phone,
Exactly.
or taking a breath while I'm waiting in line.
Or noticing the beauty of nature on your walk to work.
It's about shifting our focus. And the more we do it, the easier it gets.
It becomes natural. Like we're training our minds to tune into a different frequency, you know?
The frequency of peace and love and guidance.
And the lesson talks about repetition too, right?
Right, reminding ourselves all day long that God's voice is speaking.
Saying that phrase, God's voice speaks to me all through today.
With our eyes open and closed.
That repetition, it's powerful. Like
Yeah.
planting a seed.
Yeah.
With those reminders, the more we say it, the more it becomes part of us. In the moments when the universe seems to be like helping us along.
It's funny, I'm noticing we're already doing it.
Doing what?
Weaving the lesson into our conversation.
Oh, you're right.
We're talking about forgiveness, surrender, intuition.
It's like the lesson itself is guiding us, reminding us that these aren't just, abstract ideas.
They're tools.
Tools we can use in our lives. And by sharing our own experiences, we're showing how to put these teachings into practice.
In the real world.
That's what I love about A Course in Miracles.
Yeah.
It's not just a book.
It's a way of life.
And the more we practice it, the more we realize its wisdom is always there
Guiding us.
toward our highest good.
This has been so insightful, but I feel like we're just scratching the surface. That image, from the lesson, the raucous shrieks and sick imaginings, it just captures like what it feels like to be stuck in that ego mind.
It does. All that frantic energy compared to the peace we find when we connect with God's voice. It's not about pretending those thoughts and feelings aren't there. It's about realizing we don't have to let them run the show.
This reminds me of something we've talked about before, choosing a different thought. Instead of getting lost in fear or anxiety, we can actually choose a thought that's more peaceful, more loving.
Right. The lesson doesn't use those exact words, but it's the same idea. Shifting our focus. Going past the surface to the truth that's underneath.
So say I'm stressed about a deadline at work. Instead of letting the anxiety take over, I could focus on the fact that I have the skills to do the job, the resources, all that.
Exactly. You're not denying the deadline exists. You're just choosing to approach it from a place of confidence, not fear.
It's like training our minds to look for the good stuff, the solutions, not just the problems.
And that's where God's voice comes in, right? Remember that part of us that's always connected to truth, to God.
Whether we realize it or not.
Yeah. So when we choose thoughts that are peaceful, loving, we're tuning into that connection.
I was reading something online about gratitude.
Oh, yeah.
This article saying it can actually rewire our brains.
To focus on the good things. Interesting.
It ties into what we're saying, right? Gratitude, it's the opposite of those sick imaginings. It helps us see what's working, what's beautiful.
What we can be thankful for.
And when we do that, we're connecting with the right mind, with God's voice.
It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? The more grateful we are, the more we hear God's voice. And the more we hear God's voice, the easier it is to find things to be grateful for, even when things are tough.
So even if things are going wrong, if we're facing challenges, we can still find something to be grateful for.
Always. There's always something. The breath in our lungs, the sun on our face. It's about perspective, training ourselves to look for the good no matter what.
Like that saying, gratitude turns what we have into enough.
I love that. That's what we're talking about here. Not denying the challenges, but seeing them through a lens of appreciation, abundance, not scarcity and fear.
This lesson, it's really pushing us to be more aware of our thoughts, to pay attention to the stories we're telling ourselves.
And to choose stories that are full of peace, love, gratitude.
And remembering, we're not doing this alone. God wants us to hear his voice. He gave it to us for a reason.
It's there waiting. All that wisdom, all that support. We just have to tap into it.
So as we go about our day, let's try to listen for those whispers of guidance, to choose thoughts that lift us up, that align with the best within us, and to be grateful for all the blessings, big and small.
And trust that when we do that, we're opening ourselves up to a life full of peace, joy, purpose. It's all there waiting for us.
Thank you for joining us on this exploration of Lesson 49 from A Course in Miracles. Until next time, may you find peace and guidance in the whispers of God's voice.
I woke up to a